Every family has a star, and in Ashley's it was her older sister Jessica. A tale as old as time, Ashley's story begins with her unexpected arrival into a family already complete with their shining star. Unplanned and unexpected, Ashley's existence was a surprise that her parents weren't quite ready for. In the shadow of her sister's achievements, Ashley's own milestones often went unnoticed. Her accomplishments never quite bright enough to outshine Jessica. Growing up, Ashley felt the sting of this neglect, the weight of being an afterthought heavy on her young shoulders. Her parents' eyes would light up for Jessica, their pride palpable. For Ashley, however, their affection felt more like an obligatory footnote, a stark contrast to the adoration showered on her sister. This disparity wasn't lost on Ashley. As she navigated the tumultuous years of her childhood, she understood her place in the family's constellation. She was the forgotten star, overshadowed by the brilliant light of her sister. Her parents' love for Jessica was a glaring sun, under which Ashley often felt eclipsed. Born unplanned, Ashley often felt like an afterthought in her family. But as we'll soon discover, being an afterthought doesn't mean you can't shine. In the midst of feeling overlooked, Ashley found a haven in her grandparents. They became her rock, her solace in a world that often seemed to forget her existence. They were the ones who celebrated her small victories, who comforted her in her moments of doubt, who reminded her that she was not an afterthought, but a person deserving of love and attention. Her grandparents' home was always filled with warmth, a stark contrast to the cold indifference she experienced elsewhere. Their love for her was like a beacon, guiding her through the darkest times of her life. It was a love that didn't ask for anything in return, a love that saw her for who she truly was, not as an inconvenient addition to the family, but as a precious gift. They taught her about resilience, about the power of love and kindness. They showed her that she was capable of achieving great things, that she had a purpose in this world. With every encouraging word, every comforting hug, they instilled in her a sense of self-worth that she hadn't received elsewhere. In her grandparents' arms, Ashley found a love that was unconditional. As Jessica moved on to college, Ashley's life took a turn. With her sister out of the picture, a wave of responsibilities crashed upon Ashley. Suddenly, she found herself juggling a myriad of household chores that had once been Jessica's domain. From cooking dinners to cleaning rooms, Ashley became the invisible hands that kept the house in order. Yet she did it all without a word of appreciation. Her parents, caught up in their own world, seemed oblivious to her efforts. They never noticed the clean house, the freshly cooked meals, or the fact that their younger daughter was growing up too fast, her childhood robbed by the weight of these responsibilities. The more Ashley did, the more invisible she felt. It was as if she was a ghost, aimlessly wandering through the house, her presence felt, but never acknowledged. Her efforts, instead of bringing her closer to her parents, seemed to push her further into the shadows. Despite the frustration and the feeling of being overlooked, Ashley persevered. She hoped that maybe, just maybe, her parents would see her worth, recognize her efforts, and give her the love and attention she so craved. But as the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the recognition she yearned for never came. Instead, she found herself buried deeper in the endless cycle of chores, her dreams and aspirations pushed aside. Burdened with chores, Ashley's childhood was slipping away. When Ashley's acceptance letters arrived, she finally thought she would be recognized. She had applied to several prestigious colleges, her hard work and diligence finally paying off in the form of acceptance letters that seemed to shimmer with promise. This was Ashley's moment. She had proven that she was more than just Jessica's younger sister. She was a bright, ambitious young woman with dreams of her own. But instead of the hearty congratulations and proud smiles she had envisioned, Ashley was met with indifference. Her parents, it seemed, had already allocated their savings towards Jessica's wedding. They simply couldn't afford to support Ashley's college dreams. This was a crushing blow. a stark reminder of where she stood in her parents' priorities. Ashley, who had always felt like she was living in her sister's shadow, now found that even her greatest achievement was overshadowed by Jessica's life events. She had hoped that her academic success would finally earn her the recognition she craved. But here she was, her dreams thwarted, her hopes dashed by the harsh reality of her parents' indifference. But even in her success, Ashley was overshadowed. The joy of her acceptance was tainted by the bitter taste of neglect, a reminder of the painful truth that even in her moments of triumph she was still the overlooked child, the unintended addition to the family. As Ashley flourished in college, Jessica was struggling. As the years passed, Jessica found herself mired in a series of unfortunate events. Her marriage was on the rocks, and her career was stagnant. The once golden child of the family was now caught in a web of disappointments and failures. The financial burden of her struggles started to weigh heavily on their parents. Meanwhile, Ashley was carving out a niche for herself. Despite her challenging upbringing, she thrived in the college environment. She excelled academically, participated in extracurricular activities, and even managed to secure a part-time job. Ashley had become a source of pride for her grandparents, who watched her growth from the sidelines with beaming smiles and teary eyes. The contrast between the sisters was stark. Ashley, who had been overlooked and neglected, was now a beacon of success and independence. Jessica, on the other hand, who had been showered with attention and resources, was struggling to keep her life together. This highlighted an interesting dynamic. The years of neglect had instilled in Ashley a sense of resilience and determination. She had learned early on to rely on herself, to fight for her dreams, and to carve her own path. Jessica, on the other hand, had always relied on their parents' support and found it challenging when life demanded her to stand on her own 2 feet. The sisters' contrasting lives served to underline a fundamental truth. Adversity can either break you or make you. For Ashley, it was the latter. She had turned her adversities into opportunities, her challenges into stepping stones. She had built a life for herself, not in spite of her struggles, but because of them. Ashley's success was a contrast to her sister's struggles, a testament to her resilience. It was a narrative that defied expectations, a narrative that proved that the overlooked and the neglected could rise, could thrive, and could succeed. Ashley was living proof that with resilience and determination, one could indeed turn the tables and rewrite their story. After their grandparents' death, Ashley's parents turned to her for support. Here we see the inheritance of neglect coming into full view. Instead of a traditional inheritance, Ashley was handed the burden of her parents' financial struggles, a direct result of their misguided focus on Jessica's life. The irony was not lost on Ashley. The parents who failed to support her in her formative years were now the ones seeking her assistance. Ashley's decision to support her parents financially was not an easy one. Years of resentment, feelings of being overlooked, and the bitter taste of neglect had left a deep imprint on her heart. Yet, she found herself torn between the anger she felt and the sense of familial obligation that tugged at her heartstrings. It was a struggle, a battle fought inwardly. On one hand, she felt the urge to turn her back, to let them taste the neglect they had so freely given her. On the other hand, she couldn't ignore the fact that they were her parents, the very people who, despite their flaws, had given her life. But as she wrote out the checks, as she helped them navigate their financial turmoil, Ashley couldn't help but feel a sense of invisibility creeping back in. It was as if the years had rolled back, and she was that little girl again, trying to gain their attention, their approval, their love, only to be overlooked. The more she helped, the more she realized that to them, she was not a successful woman, not a loving daughter, but merely a lifeline they were clinging to in their hour of need. Her efforts, her sacrifices, her willingness to step up when they needed her the most, all of it seemed to go unnoticed. Like the silent whispers of the wind, her actions were felt but not seen, appreciated but not acknowledged. But this time, Ashley recognized it for what it was: a pattern, a cycle of neglect that she had unwittingly become a part of. Even in their need, Ashley's parents continued to overlook her efforts. And so, the inheritance of neglect was passed down, a painful legacy that Ashley was determined to break free from. As the financial demands continued, Ashley made a choice. A choice that was not easy, but was necessary for her peace of mind and emotional well-being. She decided to distance herself from her family, not out of spite, not out of resentment, but as a means of self-preservation. For years, Ashley had yearned for validation from her parents, for a sign that they saw her, that they valued her. But their constant neglect and dismissal had taken a toll. It was a burden she could no longer bear. So she chose to step back, to create a space where she could heal, where she could breathe. Yet the journey of healing is never a straight path. It's a winding road filled with highs and lows, moments of clarity and instances of doubt. And for Ashley, it was also a journey towards forgiveness. She had to confront the pain of her past, the neglect she experienced, the validation she never received. It was a difficult process, fraught with anger and sorrow, but it was a necessary one. Forgiveness, after all, is not about forgetting. It's about understanding, about accepting, and about letting go. It's about acknowledging the pain, but not letting it define you. It's about freeing yourself from the chains of resentment and opening your heart to the possibility of peace. As Ashley embarked on this journey, she realized that forgiveness was not about her parents. It was about her. It was about giving herself the love and validation she had been denied. It was about recognizing her worth, her strength, and her resilience. It was about reclaiming her narrative, about writing her own story. And in this process of forgiveness, Ashley found something remarkable. She found peace. A fragile, tentative peace, perhaps, but peace nonetheless. She found the strength to move forward, to leave behind the shadows of her past, and to step into the light of her future. In forgiving her parents, Ashley found the strength to move forward for herself,